Let's look at each other, shall we? Okay, where's the other?
Good evening, everyone. We'll come to order for the Public Works Committee meeting of June 1st, 2015. And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Spillman?
Here.
Kalinowski?
Commissioner Kalinowski is excused tonight.
Spillman?
Here.
Sapone?
Here. And initially, we have the minutes. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2015 Public Works Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Any corrections or additions from anyone on the committee? No. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to our regularly scheduled agenda, we have Public Works 1, and this is a sanitary sewer system for the 1500, 1600, and 1700 blocks of Old Welsh Road. This is a motion to authorize the engineering department to proceed with quotes to prepare engineering and survey plans to sewer 1500, 1600, and 1700 blocks of Old Welsh Road. This is to be funded from sanitary sewer retained earnings, and we'll turn to staff for a comment on this.
We went out and polled the people on Old Welsh Road, Commissioner Klein and myself and Tim Clark, and they're in agreement if we can get a gravity sewer system. Prior to ordaining sewers, I'd like to go and get the engineering done ahead of time to make sure we can make the gravity system and put the gravity system in for the project. So that's why I'm requesting to go out for quotes, and then I'll come back next month or a month after and get them approved.
They're all septic now.
They're on septic now. Some of the people are having problems. Some people having a hard time selling their homes. So, and Old Welsh is is a state highway, so it's kind of a difficult situation. It's one of the last sections in the township that need to be sewered, so it's not an easy thing to do.
Mr. Klein.
A little bit more background. So I received a phone call from a couple of residents in the middle of this, I guess in the 1600 block. So I sat down with Mike and Tim. We mapped out the whole area that didn't have septic into three separate sections. There was the south side of Old Welsh Road, which is the high end, and then there's the north side, which actually the property's back up to the country club, and those are lower than the street. And then there's this very small pocket down near Paper Mill that would tie into the Paper Mill sewer, the end of the Paper Mill sewer line. We had a meeting, and then we put together. This was not like other areas. We put together a pretty in-depth questionnaire because a lot of people were concerned, especially the northern end of Old Welsh Road, were concerned that they would have to have a individual septic pump system on their property because they were lower than the street. So we asked the question as to whether they were for septic if they had a pump, or if they were for septic if they had a gravity, or both. And the people on the northern side of Old Welsh Road did not want a septic system if they had to have individual pumps. So, but we did get pretty large support for gravity-fed sewer for all these areas, for all three of the areas. Before we came to this meeting, Mike and Scott Marlin put together, using GIS mapping and topography, to see whether they could actually do it gravity-fed from the back of the properties on the northern end of Old Welsh Road and get it to the pump station. And they were able to figure out that they could get it done gravity-wise, which is why we're here. I mean, Mike and I talked about it. We didn't want to spend any money until we actually knew it was feasible to do, because we weren't sure in the beginning. But they think they have George, Mike, both all think that we have a pretty good idea that we could get it done gravity. So this is just the beginning of a long process, because even if we do get this designed, then and we find bids where we get bids for the actual construction, there's easements that would have to be obtained either through the back of the properties or from the country club itself. So there's a bit of a long process here, but pretty methodical the way we put it together.
And if I could ask, is this from Edge Hill Road and then all the way up the kind of down and up the hill, or
no? It's from Huntington Road.
From Huntington
to Paper
okay.
Mill. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's those properties from, and there's a small, it's like Sybil Lane or
Civil, yes.
Sybil. There's a small cul-de-sac that comes off of Old Welsh, the southern end of Old Welsh. It has a few houses on it.
Right.
but it's most of the houses all the houses between Paper Mill and Huntington Road.
Okay. Thank you. Any comment from committee members? Yes, Commissioner Spiegelman.
I have a question for Commissioner Klein. About how many houses are affected, would be affected by this?
I think it was like 30.
Oh, okay.
30. I think it was actually more than 30. I can. 18, 21, 26. It's about 30.
Okay.
It's about 30 houses.
Any other questions from committee? Any other questions from other?
And we had responses from everybody except for 3 out of the 30.
Okay. Any other comment? Any comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. PW2. This is the Abington Township Municipal Waste Transfer Station Radiation Detection Equipment Project. This is a motion, motion to approve and enter into contract with the successful bidder, presumably, for the Abington Township Municipal Waste Transfer Station Radiation Detection Equipment Project in the amount of unknown amount at this time, to be funded from the Refuse Reserve Capital Fund. And I have, yes, we'll turn to Mr. Lefevre for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of the audience and anyone watching at home, you may recall prior to January 1st of this year, the transfer station was operated by the Eastern Montgomery Waste System Authority for over 20 years. The County Board of Commissioners disbanded that authority, and the township took control of the facility on January 1st of this year. As part of the lease with the county, the facility was to be returned to the township with normal wear and tear considerations. The radiation equipment was effectively at the end of its useful life, so prior to disbanding, the Waste System Authority allocated $50,000 to the township to cover the cost of replacing that equipment. So the motion for you tonight is to authorize, hopefully, the low bidder. The bids will be open later this week, and we'll be in a position next week to award to the low bidder and proceed with the installation of new equipment at the facility.
Thank you. Any comments from committee members? Comments from other commissioners? I'm sorry, and I so move for PW1. I'm sorry, I read it and forgot.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman. Any comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Moving on to PW3. This is our per diem union collective bargaining agreement for the years 2016 through 2019. And this is a motion to approve a 4-year collective bargaining agreement with the per diem for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2019. And a comment from, and I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Yes, there's been some work on this recently, and I'm glad to see that it is concluded successfully with both parties agreeing. Any comment from committee members? Other commissioners present?
Commissioner Hecker.
Commissioner Hecker.
No, I just wanted to express a word of gratitude to Manager Lefevre. This was a process to get to where we got to here, and I think it's a fair agreement on both sides and provides some opportunity for the township moving forward to realize some important cost savings. So great work.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comment? Comment from staff or the public? Sorry, Commissioner Klein.
Thanks. Mike, actually, good work, but I have one question. Did the per diem union ratify it yet?
The Purdue Union is voting on the contract tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comment, Commissioner, or from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Now, would anyone like to step forward and make comment on anything related to Public Works? Please identify yourself for the record.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So 2 things to bring forward tonight. One of them is about the roads, which has been back and forth and back and forth. I still don't have it. It's the simplest chart. I have it half filled out to find out how many miles of roads are paved every year in the past year to see if we're paving less, and that's why we have a problem. You all would need to know that in order to get to budget time. I've been told alternately at meetings that if you have a question, they'll be answered after the meeting. I've been told ask Mr. Lefevre after the meeting. I've been told I'll get that answer. Then I've been told that I'm not going to get that answer. I'm costing everybody too much money. You all need that answer. You all need to know if the reason that people are complaining about the roads. So I would like to have that answer, and I'm asking Mr. Lefevre right now, please, to see that I get that answer. Okay? It is part of our policy to ask questions, and if they can't be answered here at the podium, that the answer would be gotten afterwards. So, and it's not only a simple thing, but it's very important. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the HUD grant. There is apparently a HUD grant for $17 million to benefit 46 families that already are in homes. The homes are going to be renovated. That's lovely. Nice porches. It'll improve the neighborhood. That's lovely. But $17 million for 46 families' benefit. Okay? My question is where I would find out, do HUD homes need special zoning? Can they be put anywhere? Because for $17 million, we obviously could service a lot of people that were in need of homes. And so what I want to try and understand is how this kind of an expenditure even can happen and where other things, so zoning-wise, code enforcement, land development, public works, is this Public Works does these projects or they contract them out? Do you know that? Does Public Works contract these things out?
I do not know. I don't believe that Public Works gets those projects out. I'll turn briefly to Commissioner.
I believe the speaker is referring to the Crest Manor project. It's a county program. It has virtually nothing to do with the township. And I would suggest the speaker approach the appropriate officials on the county level to get that information.
So Public Works has nothing to do with that then? Okay. And then, so do I need to bring it up again then in zoning to find out about where it's allowed to be zoned for that kind of housing?
No, I don't think so. I think these are just houses that HUD owns, but I don't want to say too much about it. I don't know a whole lot about it. There's no...
Are you talking about the
Crest Manor, yeah, Crest Manor is the one that...
And that's already there? So
That's already there, so my...
In an AO apartment office district.
Okay.
That's already existing, and it's been there since, I believe, the 60s.
Are they allowed in all AO districts?
That's just, that's the county's owned that since 1960-something, and I apologize for the date. I can get that from the Montgomery County.
Okay, so, my question is just, are HUD homes allowed in every district or limited districts, do you know?
I
Can I-
not to give you a short
All right.
Commissioner Klein.
I mean, the zoning ordinance, and Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but the zoning ordinance doesn't regulate ownership, who can own a property, who can develop a property. So, I mean, that's never been the case with any property in the township. The zoning ordinance doesn't regulate ownership, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Spiegelman.
I'm by no means an expert on this, but my understanding is that HUD-funded projects are based on income maps. They don't really have anything to do with zoning. They're based on obviously they're residential, but they're based on the income maps and charts that they prepare for a given area.
We have no say in that.
That's federal. That's, I mean, obviously this is a project that's administered to the county, but HUD is obviously it's entirely federal domain.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other public comment on Public Works? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
And have a picture taken.
Call to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting for June 1st, 2015, and may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sanchez.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Placido.
Here.
Myers. Here. Weston.
Here.
First, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2015 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Any comments or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. First two items tonight are for information only, and let's start with CE1. This is ordinance number 2093, ordinance to amend Section 801N of the zoning ordinance, purpose to regulate seasonal outdoor sales within the township. For information only, a public hearing will be held on Thursday, June 11th, 2015, at 7:30 p.m. on ordinance number 2093. The purpose of the hearing is to amend the Abington Township Code, Chapter 162, entitled Zoning, Article 8, Supplemental District Regulations, Section 801N, Display and Storage of Goods. And again, that's for information only. Moving on to CE2, ordinance number 2095, ordinance to amend PB, Planned Business District, adding paragraph 32, student apartment housing use, H1. For information only, a public hearing on ordinance number 2095 is set for Wednesday, June 24, 2015, at 7 o'clock p.m. The purpose of the hearing is to amend the zoning ordinance to allow for student apartment housing in the PB Planned Business District. Again, that's for information only. CE3.
Can I just make a comment on CE2? Because I understood that you don't have to legally notify people about the thing before the actual hearing. The notice of the hearing is their notification. But in doing so, the people that you would notify have just missed two presentations. Tomorrow will be the second of the actual issue that may not even be re-given before the hearing. And I would assume after two presentations, they probably aren't going to give a third. So even though you don't have to, I just would recommend that the township take the tack of notifying all the people when this is coming out.
Right. Well, I notified residents, and I know others did, about the meetings you're referring to, tomorrow night's EDC meeting, that it would be on the EDC agenda. So, you know, this
But all the stakeholders weren't notified, the same ones that are required to be notified ultimately for this hearing, correct? You didn't mail out to the people.
Well, the notice requirements, right, wouldn't apply for something at the EDC hearing that would ultimately be presented at the full hearing anyway.
You mean the presentations would be
Yes, the
presented at
presentations
full
will be
hearing?
presented at the full hearing.
I'd be surprised. They were long presentations. I'd be surprised they'd be re-presented, but, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back to CE3, ordinance number 3000, ordinance to amend Chapter 98, Housing Standards, Section 98-2A, Amendments to Standards. This is a motion to adopt ordinance number 3000 to amend Chapter 98-2A, PM 3038, storage, parking, abandonment, or keeping of any licensed or unlicensed motor vehicle, CE3. And I so move. It's been moved and seconded. I believe Mr. Matteo has a dazzling PowerPoint presentation
I don't know
for...
how dazzling it is. I had assistance with it because you know how technically inept I am. This ordinance, just so for record, came from Commissioner Carol Gillespie, along with others, concerning what is happening in our township on cars either vacant or just constantly parking on grass and lawns. Not only just cars, but boats and trailers and things like that, which is happening. And my staff took some pictures for me, and I'd like to just present them today for you. Ordinance would prohibit any vehicles of this type of being parked on the grass or lawn, regardless. Vehicles include cars, trucks, and trailers. Watercraft would also be prohibited from being parked on the lawn. This would include boats, jet skis, wave runners, or anything of that equipment. As you can see, some photographs which we've taken, and if you would see how they're being parked, and usually in the front yard. You can't park in front of a, look at the top left, you can't park in front of a water thingy. Thank you, fire hydrant.
It's called a fire hydrant?
So the guy parks on his front lawn, so it doesn't have to violate any of the codes. Thank you, Chief, for laughing. You'll see, especially the lower right, how they're parked in the front, the top right, is what's happening. The gentleman in the middle where Mark Pennicout took the picture, you see his arm in the window of the just truck, and you can see like it's like 2 feet of lawn, and they just throw it up there. More vehicles. We have a gentleman who likes to park his hearse on the front lawn, top left. There's the trailers and things. Look at the things which I'm trying to point out, and there are driveways on these properties that they can utilize. This is where I guess our frustration is coming in. Here they go, and they said, look, I'll park on the lawn instead of parking on the driveway, so they don't have to back out their vehicle. Do that. If they wanted to widen their driveway, could always come in and get a permit to widen their driveway. Somebody asked me if it's legal if you put stone down. Yes, as long as it complies with the code. Anytime anybody wants to widen their driveways and stuff, it has to meet the building and or zoning code for impervious surface coverage. Again, trailers, if you see the driveway's totally empty and there's a trailer in the top left, top middle there. Cars parked all over. We have trucks. The property owners, this came up, it was a concern of some of the commissioners. Property owners are notified by regular and certified letters, given a specific time period to remove the vehicle. This is no different than what we do for property maintenance regulations. We always send out a letter that you have at least 2 weeks, which we've always been using since 1986, about 2 weeks to correct the violation. If they do not do so, then we go to court, which we've been to many court cases. I hope all of you saw today. I sent you what we've done for the whole month of May, all the violations throughout all 15 wards. And you'll see what happens. And you'll see on there that we are going to court. I have another one on June 10th that I have to go to because somebody does not correct their swimming pool violation and the fencing. So we do that to redo. Fines can range up to $1,000 per offense, no different than property maintenance on cutting the grass or any other violations. Also, this would not apply to residents having guests over for one time. If you have a situation that you're having a party, especially this last couple of weeks, my neighbor across the street had 75 people over for their son's graduation, but they didn't park on the lawn. Luckily, we have a parking lot down the street from my house, but you have those type of things happening. Permission could also be granted for a short temporary basis. If there's something going on, we work with it. We, as you know, code enforcement works very closely with the Community Policing Department. Al Freed is called out there, numerous calls. Commissioner Jones's ward, especially if somebody has a RV that's coming in, even though anything excess of 25 feet, the people are coming home, they maintenance, and then they take it away again. At least they keep the police aware of what's going on. Police keeps code enforcement apprised so that we can keep the commissioner apprised of what's going on. So this, again, working together. What our goal is with this ordinance is to prohibit this type of stuff of people parking on lawns. And we had one, matter of fact, I do have one which I took a picture of it, but I didn't make this PowerPoint, of somebody drives a school bus, but they park right in the front lawn. You can't even see the house because it's parked on the dirt and their gravel. They don't even have grass on their front lawn. And that's what's going on. So I just wanted to show you this is what's happening. We're trying to prohibit it. Matter of fact, the good chief of police brought this to our attention, who received a complaint several years ago, but of course we did not have anything to prohibit such activity going on in Abington. That's why we came up with this ordinance. Thank God for Ms. Gallagher, who put this together for me, and I thank you. Any questions?
I believe we'll have some. Thank you, Director Matteo. Commissioner Gillespie.
I do have a comment, and my main concern is I've seen too many people, and these pictures don't even show it, where they basically pull right up to their front door. And it's like, and then we have one local family that has about, on the weekends, about 15 cars maybe on the front lawn. And I think what's happening, they say, oh, well, they can do it. So why can't I?
And that's what's happening.
And over the last couple of years, as I ride around, I'm like, wow, what's happening in Abington? So that would be my concern. Okay, but just how are they going to, my other concern is just complaints from...
Either complaints or we're driving around, and again, working with, and the chief has been very kind, working with community policing. Patty, who is our traffic person, could help us out. We can, again, work together. As you know, from March until October is our busiest time. And we are there, thank gosh. I have the two individuals that are out there and going around. Of course, you get a copy of all the letters that we send to all the constituents in violation of any of our township codes. So we're getting it. If you do hear anything, give me a call, write to me. People do that. As you know, I'm in early in the morning. Having people that Commissioner Sanchez says that his daughter calls me Mr. Grumpy. But you do get these early in the morning. We get them and we act on it accordingly.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
Thanks. Larry, I have a question. I'm sure many of us have some very narrow roads that do not have sidewalks. And people on some of those roads tend to park half in the street, half on the front yard, but as if it was street parking. I don't mean pull straight into the front yard, like parking on the street, but half, the front wheel and the rear
I
wheel
totally
are
understand what
on
you're
the
saying.
grass.
Right.
And they're doing that to really make room on the narrow street for cars to be able to pass. How will we handle that kind of thing?
We'll work together with the individual, Peg. I can't emphasize that enough. And especially the way Alfred is, he'll go out there with me. We go look at these things and we can judge. We can make a good determination. We're not going to go out there and just deliberately cite anybody if it's something like this. This type of stuff, this is what annoys me. That type of thing is nothing. That's a no-brainer. And I think we could work with the individuals.
May I just take a moment? And I'd like to offer an opinion. I think this is an important ordinance because people are very concerned with property value. And I'm sure that the phone calls that you get, and certainly the phone calls we get, are about the neighbor that's doing this. And they're bringing down the property value in the neighborhood. Because the last thing you want to look at is cars parked on the grass, especially the front yard. It's ugly.
Just for instance, if I may, and Jimmy, I know you know this one. The top middle one, you'll see the 3 or 4 cars that are parked on the grass. They have this huge driveway right there that they could park, plus they have a huge garage that people could park, and you see where they park. This is what I'm saying, okay? You have the accommodations that you could legally park a vehicle in the proper spots, not this stuff where everybody's parked on the grass. Of course, the bottom right, I have other issues with that property, as you can tell, with the high grass. So we have other things going on there. Jimmy, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, Director
problem.
Mateo. What do we do about residents who have vehicles on their lawns that cannot be started or can't be moved?
Well, technically, again, that's in violation of our current code. Okay? So that's not even germane to this one. Our current code, all vehicles have to be properly licensed and inspected and registered. So if there is something let us please bring it to our attention. Okay? And we've got there. Again, we work with the police department. If you have a vehicle that's on the street that's not registered or anything else, we call the police. The police help me out tremendously with that. Okay? I got Alfred, Chris Posey that will do that, our traffic safety officers. If it's on private property, call us.
So would it be the same process, orange sticker?
Yes, sir.
You have time?
That is
If
correct.
not, we move it.
Remove it. That's
Got it.
exactly right. If you bring it to, a lot of times you see them parked in the back, and they'll necessarily just see them parked. It might even be in the driveway, but you see it there, 4 flat tires and things like this. Look, that's not an operable thing. We have a code, our current zoning code prohibits this type of stuff.
I can just follow up on that, Director Mateo. So is 2 weeks, did you say 14 days to comply?
Usually it's 2 weeks, which, and of course, we've been using this process since '86.
Is that, do you think, sufficient for those cars that can't be moved?
That is correct.
Okay.
2 weeks is sufficient time to get registered and everything. Or, let me add to this, just so everybody knows. If somebody really has a legitimate problem, a simple phone call or something in writing to us, we always grant extensions, okay? We will work with an individual. It means more to me if somebody calls up and says, look, I have a real serious problem. I need to get this fixed, and I need another week or 2. We'll work with an individual to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Hecker.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. I agree with what's been said here tonight. I think this is an important thing to move forward. And I had 2 questions related to the exceptions. And so Is there going to be a process by which people are expected to notify your office if they're having a party or some other event, or will it be complaint-driven, and then somebody goes out and they find
And
out?
I think we're going to get this out there so that people know what's going on after this gets approved. Right now, again, I keep emphasizing with the chief and community policing, but we do work together when there are special events happening in Abington Township, and they'll call either or, and we always let the other department know what's going on.
Okay, so we should put that out there in our
Please put that
communication
out
to the
there.
residents.
We get this approved, that they know. And like I said, just from yesterday, in my own neighborhood with a graduation, we have graduations coming up, you have bar mitzvahs, everything else happening, and this, especially June, I don't know why, June is like the busiest month in Abington with these parties, so you see a lot of it going on.
Thank you. And related to that, the second part of the exception was that there would be sometimes permission granted for on a temporary basis. Is there specific examples of things that may arise that would allow for that kind of?
Well, I mean, again, if your father probably comes down from Bucks County and wants to stay a week with you and you don't have parking, Larry, could you work with us on this type of thing? Okay?
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Klein.
Yeah, I agree with Peggy's comment about the fact that sometimes you have narrow streets. I have a couple narrow streets where people do park on the lawn. Might I suggest, especially in those narrow, because it does happen on narrow streets, we have a 40-foot right-of-way. Might I suggest that we strike the requirement that cars can't be parked in the right-of-way area, because that would solve that issue. Just a suggestion, because there are those issues on a couple of the streets in my ward where cars sometimes do park right off of the road to keep the road clear.
Exactly.
But they're still, I would imagine, if you measured 20 feet from the center line of these roads, they would still be within the right-of-way. So my suggestion would be to look at possibly taking out that clause.
Does that cause a problem?
Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. Director Grumpy, I'm sorry, Mateo. Two questions. The first is, following up from Commissioner Hecker, is there any kind of a waiver potentially I could see someone who may have a classic car or an antique car that they just don't want to move for substantial periods of time? So I don't know if there's anything that could be done for that. And I guess my next question is not as germane or specific to this ordinance, but it deals with the people who seem to be storing cars. Is there anything else we can do based on the number of cars? Because one of the pictures you showed is in our ward, and it was 3 cars, but at one point there were like 7 or 8 cars, and whether they're registered or not, sometimes it looks like people are creating used car lots out of their backyards. Is there anything that we can do about that if there's a significant number of cars?
We totally, number of cars, if they're parked on this, if they're all licensed and inspected, and if they're legally parked in the proper zone, I can't stop that. We do have a situation, matter of fact, in the Ardsley area, of a gentleman who is now up to 16 vehicles on his property and has them all in the backyard. This type of stuff is, and of course, we have to go to court, and we're going to court next week with this individual. Yeah, Larry?
I guess this ordinance would limit it
That
because
is
you
correct.
at least have
I mean,
the
it's like
space
here,
limitation.
instead of-
So, yeah, it is.
If this young man had the one in the middle top, he had 6 or 7 cars. If they're legally parked, I can't stop him. It doesn't mean he has to park behind the house.
Right.
Which he does not even, I don't know if he owns that house or something. That's why I got to double check that one.
I think he does, but
Does he
doesn't
own that
live
one now?
there.
Okay.
One of the cars was a Bentley, which was a little bit, I was interested in, maybe you might want it, but
I don't think so. Thank you very much.
it would fit you.
I still drive a Pinto, so, yes.
The first one made, I'm sure.
1971, that is correct, sir.
Still drive a Pinto? Knock them in the back.
Yeah, just don't hit it into anything, or don't let anything hit it.
Commissioner
I'm
Spiegelman.
focusing on you, and I have to hear from him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. This is a question, Larry, for you, or actually for any of our friends here on the board. It's funny, there's certain legislation that comes before us that you just know is going to produce a very impassioned response, like, red light cameras or the Betawood Wawa. But then there are some that take you by surprise, and this is definitely one of these. I had no idea how many people felt this strongly about the notion of a don't park on the lawn ordinance. It's not a complaint that I've encountered in Ward 11. I'm sure it happens somewhere, but no one's ever complained about it to me, so I'm not aware of any cases. But there are a bunch of folks who are definitely in agreement with, I think, a lot of the commissioners here, that this is an issue of property values, of sort of neighborhood aesthetics, also of sellability. And we have a lot of houses for sale, and as Commissioner Gillespie can certainly attest, probably makes it a little complicated to sell the house with the big car on the front lawn. A lot of people have expressed the concerns that you've addressed already with temporary issues, parking parties. But a couple of folks very vehemently against this as a basic issue of property rights, that this is an undue encroachment on essential property rights. So I'm curious, Larry, if you have gotten feedback from residents, or if my fellow commissioners, Dennis, you've gotten, is this issue come up for folks?
I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Carol.
Is he done? Is he done?
Or did you want to
No,
feedback, or did you?
I always love to get feedback, but it can be later. I'm just kind of putting that out
Commissioner
there.
Gillespie.
Well, maybe my feedback a little bit. Just thinking, I was shocked when there wasn't something we could do, because it's a first-class township. I'm like, what does that mean? I thought there was something in there that, we don't just pull our car or our tractor up on the front lawn, and make it a planter. I thought it was pretty obvious that it would have been in there, so maybe you didn't think that, but...
Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I actually see the relevance of the issue with the property rights. I wonder if at some point there's another angle to look at this, and that is that when you're parking on a driveway, you're parking on more of a impervious surface. When you have cars that are parked on grass, cars typically leak things that we probably don't want leaking into the grass and our environment. And I think that there is a health, safety, and because we have a responsibility to be on top of these things and protect the well-being of the community and the taxpayers, I think it would be our responsibility, despite the property rights issues, to ensure that we enact this legislation.
My lawn cars don't leak, though, just so we're-
Commissioners.
His Pinto does.
very much so.
Put that out on different media sites, and the feedback I did receive from several residents, excuse me, was that the government is telling them what to do on their property. That's the feedback I'm getting so far. And also one correction, those 16 cars, they're in Ward 6, not in Ward 9.
Oh, okay, I apologize to you. Is that why that gentleman didn't show up tonight? Anyway, no, I was asked to put this together. I see what's happening in the town. We put together, we're taking it under a property maintenance type situation. That's where we're coming from. I don't know if any of you, especially, I can say a long-term resident of Abington for the last 66 years, I'm seeing a change, and if we could all work together again, that's what we're trying to do. And I think that if we can do something very nice, we can make this work. Code enforcement will work with people. If they have a problem, they have a specific problem, let's work together, and that's what we'll do.
Commissioner Klein. I mean, I appreciate the work together thing, but it's, by codifying it, you haven't made it subjective. It's, if somebody complains, you have to act on it. This came up in front of the Planning Commission when we had our presentations on the zoning ordinance. Probably about a year ago, it came up, talking about cars parking on lawns, and we had a pretty good debate with the Planning Commission as to whether this is something that should be handled a different way or should be in the zoning ordinance. So I'm glad it's not in the zoning ordinance, because we have people coming in for variances left and right to park cars on their lawn, and that's not really what we should have the zoning hearing board dealing with. I have some concerns about the property rights issue. To Commissioner Jones, if somebody's leaking on a driveway, it's going to get into the grass sooner or later anyhow. So I don't know if that's, in my mind, the relevant issue. I have some concerns about this issue also, but, looking at these pictures, I know a couple properties in my ward that I see with cars parked in driveways, and, I get the optics and the aesthetics of it happening. So, but once again, I do think we should look at that right away wording.
Commissioner Schreiber.
The only two people who have contacted me about this, one was
already addressed, which is if they had a party and it's a one-time thing. So you've addressed that. The other one, and I think Commissioner Spiegelman got the same thing that I did, it was if you have a shared driveway, so that if somebody's parked in the driveway and then somebody from the house next door is also parked in the driveway, they can't be back and forth, one in front of the other in that driveway, because one car won't be able to get out. So one person parks on the lawn. And I think that was that person's concern, because they share a driveway. Not all wards probably have that situation where people
May I
share-
address that?
Yeah.
Case in point, the 1900 block of Guernsey Avenue. Jonathan, is that what you're talking about? I think that if you look at that situation, you'll see the one house, matter of fact, the one that's up for sale right now, they did widen. We granted them permission to widen so that they had that accessibility, so they can get their own vehicle, cars in, plus another one can go in the back. So we did work with people. Again, if they have enough room to legally put in a driveway, either crushed stone or macadam, we will work with anybody. And so it's already been done, John. I don't know if you, if that's what you're talking about, that instance?
This, I think, what Lori's talking about is a different one, but
Yeah,
it is,
it's a
I
different
mean,
Similar.
it comes, the share, Lori and I both have in our wards
Exactly,
a bunch of
exactly.
streets where there are a lot of shared driveways,
correct.
and there are always myriad problems with those.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There are recipes
I'm just
for
saying,
disaster.
those are the two, in answer to
But
Commissioner
it can be
Spiegelman's-
addressed, if they have enough room
If they want
to
to
they can do
widen it, I mean, you
Seriously,
know, if they
Lori,
want to.
just go right here, 1900 block of Guernsey Avenue, they did it, they widened
Yeah.
it, and I don't think we've had a problem, right? Because Guernsey Avenue, as you know, is it's a narrow street, and it's heavily traveled either by the township police and hospital personnel that utilize that thing, so, and they made it work, I think.
Larry speeds down there a lot. No, they did make work, and they needed to get a rain barrel, and they got a rain barrel, and.
And they did all that, right. Okay?
Yeah, no, I understand that there are ways that you can, I'm just saying, those are the two concerns that I've had brought up to me. It wasn't about, property rights or anything like that. Those were the two that came up. There are ways that would cost them some amount of money, and whether people want to spend that money is a different issue, but, yeah. Thank you.
Director Mateo, what are your thoughts on the right-of-way issue? Is that a critical piece for the, not?
I really don't think, I don't see it as a critical piece. I'm going to talk to our attorney later, and we'll see what we can come up with on this thing. Okay? Yeah.
You can make that change without having to re-advertise it. So if you wanted to make that change, we can get that done by next week.
Okay.
All right. Anyone on the board have any further thoughts? I would, well, I was going to offer the amendment to strike the portion for the right-of-way area. I mean, I didn't see any of that in the picture.
Motion to amend it.
And second?
Second.
All those in favor on the motion to amend?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to amend carries, and then the amended motion has been moved and seconded. So comments from, any additional staff comments and comments from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Mateo. And then, to round out the agenda here, we have two motions to advertise. The first, CE4, ordinance number 2098. This is the ordinance enacting Chapter 49, Vacant Property Review Board. This is a motion to advertise ordinance number 2098, enacting Chapter 49, Vacant Property Review Board, to be scheduled at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on July 9th, 2015, at 7:30 p.m., and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from commissioners?
Should that be
Commissioner-
July 11th? The regular scheduled meeting?
No, it's June 11th.
Or
July.
June.
I'm sorry.
It's July is the ninth.
June and July is mixed up, my bad.
Check the calendar.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry.
Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. CE5, ordinance number 2097, real estate registry, vacant properties. This is a motion to advertise ordinance number 2097, real estate registry, vacant properties to be scheduled at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on July 9th, 2015 at 7:30 PM, and I so move. Been moved and seconded. Any comments from commissioners? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes, sir.
both ordinances, I will be giving a presentation in our next meeting.
Great. Thank you, Director. Will there be a PowerPoint? Will there be a PowerPoint?
I'm going to try to do that because it's trying to help me, because I don't have a computer. Thank you.
Can you put like 100 pictures of vacant properties in case we don't understand what the concept of a vacant property looks like?
Larry, I for one, am looking forward to that PowerPoint.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes, President.
Quick question. Larry, how many properties are the township maintaining right now, vacant properties?
I think it's close to, so far, 2025. Last year we had up to 60 properties that we maintain. Again, I thank you, Commissioner, for allowing us. I think it's almost 12 years that you allowed us to, you've given us money for our budget, that we get these properties maintained. As you know, a lot of these properties going into foreclosures, short sales, and whatever. The bank-owned properties are either in Florida, Texas, California. So we have to, I know, and I think I could say, safely, I could say each one of them had something done, most recently. So that's
Okay.
But last year was over 60. So.
I thought so, it was over 60. So right now, you're close to 30,
That's correct, sir.
and it's only June.
It's
Okay.
only June 1st.
Excuse me.
Commissioner Gillespie, go ahead.
Just, I'm sorry. You do, at settlement, whenever they are settled, we do get our funds back, correct?
Very much. We do lien the properties for the amount, and they do get back.
Good.
Monica from our finance department, she's up on this, and we do get the money. And you'll see. Again, that report I sent you today shows you what is happening on a lot of these vacant properties.
But
Great point.
can I just follow up with a question?
Of course,
Just for clarification, so people understand, that does not include shrubbery or hedge trimming, just grass cutting per se?
That's all I can do. I was told that I can't go in there. Plus, it's costly. Unless there's a major, major problem that
Right.
we have. We had a vacant home in our ward. A lady was institutionalized, and it's been like 5 years. We had to, because everything was overgrowing, so I did have to have the bushes, shrubbery cut back. Overgrowing the sidewalk and street area. It
Okay.
was a corner property, and it caused a problem for driving. So that we did do, got permission to get the spend extra money for it.
Okay.
And imminently dangerous conditions. You fixed the swimming pool fence in my ward. That was, thank you for that. Commissioner Zappone.
Thank you.
Larry, one question for you. The bank-owned properties, the ones that do not respond, I have like 3 in my ward, you know. What are we doing to hold their feet to the fire to get this stuff done?
We go to court.
Oh, okay.
We go to court, do that. We have, a matter of fact, the attorneys have been helping us tremendously. Little Noah has been very helpful in I call him Little Noah because he's under 50. That's the Italian way. And he has been helping us out tremendously. We've been to Montgomery County Court numerous times on these vacant homes. People that, matter of fact, Michael, as you know, we have one in your ward we've been working on for over a year and a half situation, and that's what's happening.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
And comments from the audience. General matters of code enforcement and land development.
Okay, thank you. General matters? Oh, I wanted to comment on this. Are we done? We were done with that?
We were
Yes?
done with that. Yep.
Okay, so, yeah, my comment on that, separate from my other comments, was just that there, and I don't know, my hearing thing went out. I'm hoping, I would encourage you, please, to approve a new one. This one works well, and then all of a sudden it goes into squeal. So please, when you're asked to approve one, please approve a new one. I don't know if Mr. Matteo mentioned it, because I wasn't able to hear some of what he said, but there's a property on Pembroke that has been an unbelievable eyesore for the neighbors, also dangerous. I'm almost certain the roof, I think, was forced the rest of the way in so that it didn't fall on somebody. Still looks like it could fall on somebody, the roof of the garage. But sadly, the amount of time that those neighbors have had to look at that is beyond. So I can't even imagine that we can't require, it's bank-owned, I think, at this point, and we can't require the bank to do something about it immediately, if not sooner, or do it for them and charge them. So, for those neighbors in particular. So do you want me to stay up here and do the end of meeting comments?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, we're into that now.
Okay, so Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. And my code enforcement and land development issues would start with, as you know, you've just had a request to develop parkland, and to develop it with a building that belongs to somebody else on that land. I would urge you right now to start proposing some kind of an ordinance that we have that no private entities can own Abington lands. In essence, you are giving that land to them. There's almost no way to undo that. And I know we did have the fire marshal came up and said that the fire buildings are separate, or privately owned, and they're on public land. And so that's done. We can't undo it. I'm not sure that that's a good idea either. But one thing that's different about PAL and about the fire companies is that one serves a small group of teens and possibly a few others in the community. But the fire department serves absolutely everybody in the community. Okay, so there is a difference there. And I bring to your attention, some of the commissioners may not have been around at the time that we did have financial difficulties with a fire company. So, as you know, that's been one of my concerns, too, is setting up for fire or police or any other township entity a place where private donations can go and funds can be collected. I mean, they're able to raise $3 million just like that for a PAL center. So the fact that funds can be funneled that way is really not a good idea.
That's your 3 minutes.
In addition, so I would like to see an ordinance that we can't have private entities on public lands.
Okay, thank you.
And the second thing that I wanted to say.
That's your 3 minutes, really. I mean, I don't want to, I know you.
Just on that issue or on the one before that with the property?
Since you've approached the podium, hit the timer.
So the first one was about the property. I asked you if I could comment on that still. So let me just finish the last comment, was about the colonnade and the fact that, and this is code enforcement and land development, somehow the colonnade seems to have been able to move forward. If you read the documents, it constantly was moving forward and being built, while behind the scenes, everybody was deciding what kind of permits it should have and if this permit or that permit was required. I don't know anywhere else. I know in our house, when we had something, we wanted to know if the contractor was doing it right. They said, if he's not, you'll have to rip it out. And in one case, I asked them to come and look if something was done right. And they said, no, that's all right, just close it up. I said, if we close it up and you decide it's not done right, he says, well, we can come make you rip it out anytime. But in this particular case, apparently the contractor kept working
Now
without
we're over the
permits.
4-minute mark, so if you could just,
Well,
I think we're done.
from my comments when I asked to
Now 4
start my
minutes and 30
end of the
seconds.
meeting comments? Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.